Every skyscraper needs blueprints. Every blockbuster, well, it needs a director. And, every single successful tech innovation, whether it's a tiny app update or a huge cloud migration, it relies on structured, rigorous guidance. So think about this. If you strip away all the tech, the servers, the fiber, the code, what actually prevents the world's really ambitious digital ideas like autonomous vehicles, massive data platforms, global e-commerce, what stops them from just collapsing into chaos?
Yeah, that's the key question. And the answer, often unseen but absolutely critical, is IT project management. It's the infrastructure underneath it all.
Yeah.
Without it, even the most brilliant tech ideas, doesn't matter the budget or the talent, they often just fail, sometimes before they even get off the drawing board.
Right? That framework, that deep understanding of how to turn a concept into reality, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the architecture driving digital success.
And for you listening, especially those of you really focused on mastering IT project management, I'm thinking of the graduate students tuning in for the Dr. Sampak College of Business. This analysis is, well, it's your strategic resource. We know just explaining concepts isn't quite enough.
No, definitely not.
The goal here is to give you the context, the practical tools.
Yeah.
How to use those concepts, that's KO1, right, to actually achieve professional impact. Managing those multiple related phases of a project, which links directly to SO2.
So our mission today is pretty comprehensive. We want to unpack the critical concepts, the trends defining modern IT project leadership. We'll cover everything from, say, how the project management office has evolved strategically, right down to the precise math behind control metrics.
Exactly. It's about building that foundational understanding you need to plan, lead, and ultimately deliver successful IT projects.
Okay, and before we jump in, if you find this useful, if it helps connect the dots between theory and the real world, please take a second to engage.
Yeah, definitely. Like, follow, share this deep dive. It helps others find it. And check the description below. We've linked some foundational case studies mentioned in the source materials. Taloxy Engineering, Doral Products. They're great examples for applying what we discuss, especially around org structure and control.
Perfect. Let's get started then. All right, section 1. Let's tackle one of the, I think, biggest shifts in management science over the last decade or so. The Project Management Office, the PMO. Historically, you kind of thought of the PMO as admin, right?
Yeah.
Tracking schedules, filing reports.
Absolutely. That was the old view, just making sure the paperwork was right, the documents were organized. But what the sources are showing and what we see in practice is this massive shift.
Yeah.
The PMO is moving away from being just passive admin towards being a proactive strategic partner. And this is a huge shift. It fundamentally changes how you even measure success for a PMO.
Okay, so it's not just about efficiency anymore. Like, did we finish on time and under budget?
Exactly. That's way too narrow now. It's no longer acceptable to judge a PMO just on operational efficiency. Now, they're measured by their tangible contribution to strategic results. That's the key phrase.
Tangible contribution to strategic results.
Okay.
Okay, so when we talk strategic results, what kind of KPIs are we talking about? What replaces those simple on-time, under-budget metrics?
We're looking at things that prove value to the business. Did the project portfolio actually increase market share? Did it support launching a profitable new product line? Did it genuinely reduce operational risk? Or maybe increase system stability in a way that you can point to and say, this lowered the cost of failure?
So the PMO has to connect the dots directly.
Yes, draw a direct line of sight between the money spent on projects and achieving what the executives want, the overall vision. If the strategy is, say, pivoting to mobile first, the PMO needs to show how the entire portfolio is supporting that pivot, not just how fast one app got deployed.
Wow, okay. That implies the PMO can't just sit back and wait for strategy to be handed down from the top anymore.
Precisely. They have to actively participate in defining it, or at least informing it. The PMO needs to become this attentive, active observer, watching the whole business environment.
Proactively.
Yeah, think proactively, not just reacting to change orders hitting their desk. They should be identifying strategic opportunities, maybe threats in the market. If a competitor launches something disruptive, the PMO should be right there advising on how to adapt the internal project portfolio immediately.
So constantly asking, are we building the right things? And maybe just as importantly, are we retiring the old stuff effectively?
That's it. And that kind of strategic role demands flexibility in how you execute projects, which leads us straight into that ongoing debate, agile versus waterfall. The sources are really clear. The one-size-fits-all idea, it's obsolete.
Right. You hear that everywhere now.
And for good reason. Many PMOs have, quite rightly, embraced flexible, value-focused, agile methods. Scrum, Kanban. They build a culture of collaboration, rapid feedback, adaptability. Agile shines when requirements are changing fast or you need constant customer input. It just leads to better decisions, quicker adjustments based on what the market's telling you. That's a core part of KO2, evaluating those situations.
Okay, but if Agile is so great for adapting, does that kill off traditional waterfall? Is it dead?
Oh, far from it. Waterfall still has immense value for certain kinds of projects. Think about projects with really fixed, stable requirements, or maybe high regulatory needs, lots of compliance hurdles, or even big physical components like building out network infrastructure.
Yeah, things where you can't just change direction midstream easily.
Exactly. Or implementing a massive, tightly controlled system upgrade. You need that structure, those strict sequential phase gates that Waterfall provides. That rigor is necessary sometimes.
So it's not about picking a side. The best practice is more blended.
Yes. Hybrid management methodologies.
Yeah.
That's really the prevailing strategy now. Blending them lets organizations be agile, where it counts maybe on the customer-facing front-end development,
Right, iterating quickly there.
while still using the structure and planning rigor of traditional methods for, say, the back-end systems or integrating complex infrastructure. You get the governance you need, but also maximize flexibility where possible.
Okay, that makes sense. But managing this complex, strategic, hybrid portfolio, you can't do that with just a shared spreadsheet anymore, can you?
Oh, definitely not.
Hmm.
That brings us to project portfolio management tools, PPM solutions.
BPM.
Right. These are no longer a nice-to-have. They're pretty much essential for strategic control in IT today. The first big benefit, visibility.
Seeing everything in one place.
Everything. Complete, real-time visibility across the entire project and product portfolio. Think how critical that is for coordinating things and for proactive problem identification. If you could see that 3 crucial projects are all going to need the same senior database architect next month.
You can fix it now, not when everything grinds to a halt.
Exactly. You intervene now. It shifts the PMO's job from just reporting what went wrong last week to predicting what might go wrong next month.
That's a huge shift from reactive reporting to proactive prediction.
It is. And second, these tools enable genuine data-driven decision-making. Again, hitting on KO2 here, PPM solutions have analytical capabilities that blow static reports out of the water. The PMO can analyze trends across projects, spot patterns, why do projects of this type keep failing, and forecast resource needs, project outcomes.
Which leads to better standards.
Directly. Better standardization of best practices across the whole organization. You improve consistency, execution gets better everywhere.
And the third benefit, getting rid of the grunt work.
Automation, yeah. Streamlining routine tasks. Think about resource allocation requests flying back and forth, time tracking, manually compiling status reports.
The weekly status report grind.
Exactly. When the PMO team isn't bogged down doing that manually, they free up their brain power. Their intellectual resources shift to those higher value strategic activities we talked about, like proactive market observation. The software handles the mechanics, the people focus on strategy and solving real problems.
Okay, so we've covered the strategic level, the PMO's evolution. Now let's drill down into the project itself. Starting with some fundamental definitions and those famous constraints, project management generally follows 5 core process groups, right? Straight from the PMBOK.
That's the foundation. You have initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closure. Now, when you try to map those onto classic management functions, planning, organizing, staffing, controlling, directing, you hit a really critical difference in a project environment.
And that's about staffing, isn't it? The project manager. They plan, but they don't usually hire the team directly.
Correct. That's a crucial distinction. The PM is the planner, the integrator, the one monitoring progress, controlling scope. But staffing, that's inherently a line management responsibility. The functional manager owns the resources.
So the PM requests people.
Exactly. The PM says, I need Jane Smith, our best Python developer, for 200 hours starting next month. But the functional manager is the one who actually commits Jane to the project. This detail is so important because it means the PM has to lead mostly through influence, not direct authority. That's a huge soft skill requirement.
Leading through influence, that's what keeps those constraints in balance. The famous triple constraint: time, cost, and performance or quality.
Absolutely. The project manager is the ultimate integrator. Their job, day in and day out, is to constantly remind the functional managers who might be focused only on technical perfection that all 3 constraints exist and matter.
Right, because the tech lead might say,
Just give me another 6 weeks and double the budget, and I'll build you the perfect gold-plated solution.
Mm.
The PM has to step in and say, okay, but we have a deadline and a fixed budget from the business. We need to make trade-offs. They integrate the time and cost limits into that technical discussion.
And you mentioned earlier, or the sources mentioned, that success isn't just hitting a single point on that grid. It's more like a cube. How does thinking about it that way help?
It helps because aiming for one perfect theoretical point is often, well, a fallacy, especially in complex IT projects. Success is really about meeting the customer's expectations within the constraints you negotiated. The cube idea acknowledges we're juggling multiple critical success factors, or CSFs.
Things beyond just time, cost, scope.
Yeah, like stakeholder satisfaction, the actual business value delivered, team morale, hitting regulatory requirements. The PM manages the trade-offs so the project lands within an acceptable zone inside that cube, not necessarily chasing one impossible ideal point.
Okay, let's explore the relationships then. The sources talk about a three-legged stool. This seems really fundamental, especially for students who might be working in a project team soon, hitting that SO3 outcome.
It's absolutely fundamental. The whole project management system, when it works well, is designed around shared authority and responsibility. The stool needs all three legs: the project manager, the line manager, or functional manager, and the executive sponsor.
And they have to see each other as equals.
For it to work smoothly, yes. The PM and the line manager need to be willing to share authority and, crucially, accountability.
Okay, let's break down the roles again. PM plans, monitors, controls the what and the when.
Correct. They're the communication hub, ensuring everything integrates across different functional teams. They worry about the end date, the overall budget. But the functional manager's role is just as vital. They actually do the work, or their team does. They're responsible for staffing, assigning the right people, and committing those technical resources.
Right, but here's where the tension comes in, isn't it? If the functional manager assigns someone who isn't quite skilled enough, or they pull them off the project too early, and the schedule slips, who takes the heat?
Both of them. That's the key. If commitments aren't met, both the PM and the functional manager share accountability. The PM failed to monitor the risk or escalate effectively. The functional manager failed to deliver on their resource commitment.
So clear, documented commitments are essential.
Absolutely essential. It prevents people from hiding in their silos and pointing fingers. Shared responsibility forces collaboration.
And the third leg of the stool? The sponsor.
That's senior management, often represented by one key executive champion. The sponsor provides that critical behind-the-scenes support. They break down barriers, resolve conflicts between departments, protect critical resources when needed, and maybe most importantly,
Making decisions.
making effective and timely decisions. The sources really stress the timely part. If the PM brings the sponsor accurate data showing a major issue, a big budget overrun looming, a critical path delay, the sponsor has to act fast. No delays, no kicking the can down the road. That kills projects.
That whole shared authority structure, it must be massively impacted by how the organization itself is set up. Let's compare the main structures: functional, projectized, and matrix.
It absolutely is. The pure functional structure, the traditional one, is very siloed. You have strong technical expertise within departments. All the engineers report to the VP of engineering, etc. Clear career paths there.
But the downside?
Projects often suffer badly. Schedules drag because work moves slowly between departments, waiting for handoffs and approvals. Cross-functional integration is usually poor.
Okay, then the opposite extreme: pure product or projectized.
Right. Here, you dedicate a team entirely to one project. The PM often has direct authority over everyone on the team. This gives you strong, single control, rapid reaction time, and people get really loyal to that project.
Sounds good, but what's the catch?
Technology development can actually suffer in the long run. You lose that cross-pollination of ideas between projects because teams are isolated. And when the project ends, the team disbands. You can lose valuable collective knowledge and end up reinventing the wheel on the next project.
Which brings us to the middle ground, the compromise. And the most common, but maybe the trickiest, the matrix organization.
The matrix tries to get the best of both. It shares authority. The PM typically dictates what work needs to be done and when. The functional manager dictates who does the work and how, technically speaking.
But the sources flat out say it leads to continuous conflicts. If it's so conflict-prone, why is it the most common? What's the trade-off executives are accepting there?
That's the million-dollar question. The trade-off is primarily organizational flexibility and efficient resource pooling. especially in large IT organizations. You simply can't afford to dedicate your top-tier, highly specialized, expensive experts like cloud security architects to every single project full-time.
Right, you need to share them.
Exactly. The matrix lets the functional manager pool those experts and allocate their time across multiple high-priority projects based on need. Yes, this creates a constant tug-of-war, conflicts over resources, project priorities, even who gets credit for profit or blame for loss. But
Management sees that conflict as what? A necessary evil?
pretty much, it's often viewed as a necessary operational cost to maximize the use of expensive resources and maintain deep technical expertise across the organization. But, and this is critical, it puts immense pressure on the project manager. They need exceptional interpersonal skills, negotiation skills, conflict management skills, just to keep things moving.
Okay, moving into planning. The sources hammer this home. Planning isn't just something you do up front and then forget about. It's iterative. It happens throughout the project lifecycle, right? That hits SO2, managing those phases. And they say inadequate planning is a huge reason IT projects fail.
It's absolutely foundational. It's arguably the PM's most indispensable task. If you don't define the destination clearly, how can you possibly deliver what the customer expects? And that definition really starts with a statement of work, the SOW.
The SOW. It has to work for everyone, right? Lawyers, engineers, finance people, they all need to understand it the same way, so it needs to be incredibly precise.
Precision is everything. Ambiguity in the SOW. That's where scope creep is born. The SOW's clarity defines exactly what work is included. Anything outside that definition means more cost, more time.
And the language matters. You mentioned mandatory versus permissive terms.
Hugely. You have to use mandatory terms like shall. It means this is a required action, it's contractual. Avoid permissive terms like should, which just sounds like a suggestion or a guideline.
Seems like a small word choice. Shall versus should, but I guess in a big contract, that difference is massive.
It's the difference between a firm commitment and a vague intention. It can mean millions of dollars on a large project. And another thing to avoid ambiguity, especially with external customers, spell out all their obligations, approvals, information they need to provide, and, critically, put time limits on those actions.
So if the customer has to approve a design document,
State clearly. Customers shall approve design document within 5 business days of receipt. If they don't, the project plan needs to reflect that delay and its potential impact on schedule and budget. It protects the project team.
okay, SOW nails down the what, then we need to structure how we'll do the work. That brings us to the work breakdown structure, the WBS. The sources call it the Common Framework for Integration and Control, linking to KO3.
The WBS is essentially a map. It's a hierarchical decomposition. You start with the total program at level 1, break it down into major projects or deliverables at level 2, then into tasks at level 3, subtasks at level 4, and you keep going until you reach the key level,
Which is?
the work package, usually around level 5. This is the lowest level we typically plan and control at.
Why is the work package so critical for control? What makes it the right level?
Because it's the actionable chunk. It's the unit of work you can assign to a specific functional manager or team lead for execution. It's the basis for detailed scheduling, cost estimating, and, importantly, for tracking progress using tools like earned value management, which we'll get to later.
And there's a rule of thumb for size.
Yeah, a good work package typically represents a manageable amount of effort, maybe 200 to 300 hours, and usually has a relatively short duration, like maybe 2 weeks. This granularity lets the PM actually see if progress is being made week to week.
But you can go too far, right?
Yeah.
The decomposition problem. If detail is good, why not break it down into, say, 4-hour chunks?
Yes, the classic balancing act. Control versus overhead. Breaking the work down into too much detail, like down to level 6 or 7 micromanagement, can make your control and reporting costs skyrocket.
To the point where the cost of tracking outweighs the benefit.
Exactly. You spend more time reporting on tiny tasks than actually doing the work. It becomes counterproductive. A good PM has to negotiate this with the line managers, and line managers absolutely have the right to push back if the WBS asks for detail at a level where costs or time can't be reasonably estimated without huge administrative effort. It's about finding the right level of detail, not the most detail possible.
Okay, so we have our work packages defined. Now we need to sequence them, figure out the timing. That's where network scheduling comes in, PU and CPM. That's KO3 territory again.
Right. Program evaluation and review technique, PU. and critical path method, CPM. Think of them as management planning and control tools that create a roadmap for the project. They visually show all the work packages, how they depend on each other, their interrelationships, absolutely essential for managing the time constraint.
And the single most important thing these networks tell us is the critical path.
Absolutely. The critical path is that specific sequence of activities from start to finish that has zero slack or float. It dictates the project's shortest possible completion time.
Zero slack, meaning any delay on that path delays the whole project.
By exactly the same amount. If one activity on the critical path slips by a day, the entire project finish date slips by a day. That's why the PM has to guard the critical path religiously, prioritize resources for it.
And activities not on the critical path, they have slack.
Correct. Slack, or float, is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without impacting the project's overall end date. It's the difference between the latest allowable date, TL it can finish, and the earliest expected date, TE it can finish.
So that gives the PM flexibility.
Exactly. Non-critical paths have this buffer. The PM can potentially borrow resources from tasks with slack to help critical path tasks that are falling behind. But we also need to talk about negative slack.
Negative slack, how can you have less than zero time?
It means your calculated project completion date, based on the plan, is already later than the required contractual end date from the customer or sponsor.
Wow, so the project is projected to be late before you even start executing.
Precisely. Discovering negative slack during planning is a huge red flag. It demands immediate action. The PM have to look at schedule compression techniques right away. Things like crashing, adding more resources to critical tasks, which usually costs more, or fast tracking, doing tasks in parallel that were originally planned sequentially, which often increases risk. The goal is to pull that end date back and get the slack back to zero or positive.
Okay, so even with the best plans, the best WBS, the best schedules, the reality of IT projects is turbulence, right? Change happens. Let's bring in some modern factors here, especially how technology itself is changing project management. Thinking about KO2, evaluating situations.
Yeah, the landscape is definitely shifting fast. We're seeing a huge acceleration in PM practices because of AI and much more sophisticated data-driven management. AI isn't just theory anymore. It's actively optimizing really complex project logistics.
Like supply chains.
Exactly. Think about huge logistics hubs, like the Inland Empire out in Southern California. AI is optimizing delivery routes, predicting potential equipment failures in warehouses, managing inventory flows in real time. That's project and operations management working hand in hand with AI.
And how does that translate to the project manager's day-to-day? Does it replace them?
Not replace, but augment and shift their focus. AI can increasingly handle the low-value repetitive stuff, optimizing schedules based on constraints, basic resource leveling, churning out standard weekly status reports. AI can do that.
Which frees up the PM
For the high-value work. Strategy, complex stakeholder negotiations, mentoring the team, proactive risk management, focusing on value delivery. It moves the PM away from being just a task manager or a traffic cop towards being a strategic leader.
And even things like generative AI, are they playing a role?
They are, yeah. Tools like ChatGPT can be surprisingly helpful for drafting things quickly, generating concise project summaries for an executive who has 2 minutes, or brainstorming an initial list of potential risks for a new project phase. It helps create quality content faster, which is always a pressure point for PMs. But fundamentally,
It comes back to data.
it all comes back to data. Data is the absolute backbone of modern decision-making. The ability to analyze performance data in real time, predict roadblocks before they happen, that's non-negotiable now. PMs need tools and skills that go way beyond just managing a spreadsheet.
Okay, so we have better tools, better data.
Yeah.
But still, the sources say very few projects finish exactly to the original scope. Change is just inevitable.
It really is. Which means effective change management isn't optional, it's mandatory. And this isn't new. The need for formal change control processes has been recognized in the field since, well, at least the mid-90s.
And there's a cost associated with when change happens, right? The cost of delay.
Oh, absolutely critical concept. It's universally understood. The further you get into the project lifecycle, the more expensive changes become, often exponentially more expensive.
Why is that?
Think about it. If you decide to redesign a major software architecture after you've already spent, say, $500,000 on hardware, software licenses, and months of coding based on the old design, you're dealing with huge sunk costs, maybe vendor penalties for changing orders, massive rework for the team, all potentially avoidable if that requirement change was caught or decided upon much earlier.
Okay, so change is inevitable and late changes are costly. This really highlights the need for systematic risk management, which ties into SO1, conducting research on current topics. First, let's get the language straight. Risk versus issue versus problem.
Yes, that vocabulary is crucial for clear communication, especially with stakeholders. A risk is something that may happen in the future. Its probability is less than 100%. An issue is something that will happen in the future if nothing changes. Its probability is effectively 100%, but it hasn't impacted you yet. Like knowing a key software license will expire next month. A problem is happening now or happened in the past. The main server crashed an hour ago. That's a problem.
Got it. Risk is potential future, issue is certain future, problem is present past.
Exactly. And project managers need to be systematic in identifying risks. Look everywhere, technical risks, sure, but also managerial risks, contractual risks, external market risks. Don't just focus on technology failing.
And once you identify a risk, how you respond depends a lot on the organization's culture, right? Their tolerance for risk.
Definitely. The PM can't operate in a vacuum here. They need to use their judgment, understand the contractual requirements, but also understand stakeholder preferences. Are your key stakeholders risk averters? They prioritize safety and predictability above all else. Are they risk neutral, purely focused on the best expected financial outcome? Or are they risk seekers, maybe willing to take a gamble with a lower expected value for a shot at a huge payoff?
So you need to know if they care more about utility, like satisfaction, peace of mind, versus just the raw dollars and cents.
Precisely. That understanding guides which risk response strategy is most appropriate and easiest to get buy-in for.
And to help make those choices more objectively, we use quantitative tools, like expected value.
Expected value, or EV, is a core technique. You calculate a weighted average. Multiply the probability of each possible outcome of a decision by its financial impact, positive or negative, and sum them up. The strategy with the highest positive expected value is generally the preferred one, financially speaking.
And for more complex decisions, ones that happen in sequence.
That's where decision trees come in handy. They help you map out sequential decisions and their potential outcomes over time. Think about a classic make versus buy decision for a component. A decision tree lets you visually lay out the costs, probabilities, and subsequent decision points for each path, calculating the overall expected value for making it internally versus buying it from a vendor. It brings clarity to complex uncertainty.
Okay, so you've analyzed the risk quantitatively. Now you need to decide what to do about it. What are the main strategies?
There are essentially 4 primary risk response strategies. 1, avoidance. Change the project plan fundamentally to eliminate the risk entirely. Maybe remove a high-risk feature. 2, acceptance. Decide to do nothing proactive and just deal with the consequences if the risk occurs. You might set aside a contingency fund, passive acceptance, or just document it, active acceptance. 3, mitigation, or control. Take active steps now to reduce the probability of the risk happening or lessen its impact if it does, like implementing more rigorous testing or adding redundancy. 4, transfer. Shift the risk, or at least its financial impact, to a third party. Buying insurance is a classic example. We're using specific contract clauses with vendors.
All right, final section. We've planned the work meticulously. We've thought about risk and change. We've executed. Now, the crucial part. How do we actually know objectively in real time if we're on track? We need good control systems.
Exactly. Good controls give you timely information, not just about cost, but about actual physical progress compared to the plan and compared to the money spent. This is where Earned Value Management, or EVM, comes in. This is deep into KO3 territory, demonstrating knowledge of PM terms and techniques.
EVM, the gold standard for project control, right?
It really is, because it uniquely integrates scope, schedule, and cost into one unified framework. It transforms raw data hours worked, money spent, tasks completed into objective performance metrics, and critically forecasts. It all boils down to 3 core data points measured at a specific point in time.
Okay, let's define these 3 very clearly for everyone listening. They are the absolute bedrock of EVM.
Right. At any given status date, you need to know. 1, budgeted cost of work scheduled, BCWS. This is your plan, your baseline expressed in dollars. It answers how much work, in terms of budget value, should have been done by now. 2, budgeted cost of work performed, BCWP. This is the key one, also called earned value. It measures the value of the work actually completed using the same budgeted amounts as BCWS. It answers, what is the budget value of the work that I just done? 3, actual cost of work performed, ACWP. This is simply what you actually spent. It answers, how much did the completed work actually cost us?
Okay, BCWS is the plan value, BCWP is the earned value, work done, ACWP is the actual cost. Let's make this concrete. Can we run a quick scenario? Say a project with a total budget, the BAC, budget at completion of $10,000, supposed to last 10 weeks. We're checking status at the end of week 5.
Perfect. Simple numbers work best. So end of week 5. Let's say our data shows BCWS. The plan said we should have completed $5,000 worth of work by now, halfway through. BCWP, earned value. But we check what's actually finished, and its value based on the original budget is only $4,000, ACWP. And our accounting system shows we have actually spent $400 to $500 to achieve that $4,000 worth of work.
Okay, so plan 5K, earned $4, actual cost $4, 5K. Now, how do we use these to know our status? Let's calculate the variances. First, schedule variance. SV.
SV is simply earned value minus plan value. So SV equals BCWP, BCWS. That's $4,000 minus $1,000. Negative SV means we are behind schedule. We're $1,000 worth of planned work behind where we should be.
Okay, behind schedule. Now, cost variance.
CV is earned value minus actual cost. CV equals BCWP, ACWP. So $4,000, $4,500 to get it. Wow. So one quick calculation each, and the PM knows instantly this project is both late and over budget right now. But the real power, you said, is forecasting,
right?
Using performance indices. Exactly. The variances tell you where you are now. The indices tell you how efficiently you're working and help predict the future. The two main ones are Cost Performance Index, CPI. This is BCWP divided by ACWP. CPI equals $4,000. $4,500 equals 0.89, approximately. A CPI less than 1.0 means you're inefficient with costs. We're only getting 89 cents worth of budgeted work for every actual dollar we spend. Schedule Performance Index, SPI. This is BCWP divided by BCWS. SPI equals $4,000, $5,000 equals 0.80. And SPI less than 1.0 means you're behind schedule in terms of rate of progress. We're only progressing at 80% of the speed we planned.
Okay, CPI 0.89, SPI 0.80, both below 1.0, confirming the bad news. But how does that CPI help forecast the final cost?
The estimate at completion, EAC. The most common EAC formula assumes the cost performance trend, CPI, will continue. So you calculate EAC by taking the total original budget, BAC, and dividing it by the current CPI.
So BAC was $10,000.
Right. EAC, BAC, CPI, $10,000 and 89 equals roughly $11,256. That forecast is incredibly powerful. It tells management right now, at week 5, that if performance doesn't improve, this 10K project is actually heading towards costing over $11,200.
That's the number the PM takes to the sponsor to have a serious conversation about corrective action.
Absolutely. It provides objective data for difficult conversations. And that brings us to the final piece of the financial puzzle, the management reserve.
Right. The contingency fund.
Well, it's a specific type of contingency. Management reserve is funding set aside by the project or program, usually controlled by the PM or sponsor, specifically to handle unforeseen events or realized risks that occur within the originally defined project scope.
Ah, okay. So it's not for scope creep. If the customer wants a new feature, that doesn't come out of the reserve.
Correct. Scope changes require a formal change request, rebaseline the budget and schedule. Management reserve is for dealing with the known unknowns or unknown unknowns within the existing scope. Like a key piece of equipment fails unexpectedly, or a task takes longer due to unforeseen technical complexity discovered during execution. It covers accepted or mitigated risks that actually bite you.
And where does this money come from, typically? Is it different from general corporate contingency funds?
Yes, typically. Management reserves usually come from the overall project budget allocation itself. It's earmarked for the PM to manage these internal project uncertainties. Higher-level contingency funds are often held at the corporate or portfolio level, external to the project's baseline budget, and are usually reserved for much larger, lower probability, higher impact events, things that might seriously disrupt the business, not just the project. The management reserve gives the PM some flexibility to handle normal project hiccups without running back to the sponsor for every minor deviation. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow, okay. We have covered a lot of ground today. A really comprehensive journey through the principles and the practical side of IT project management. We started with that big strategic shift, seeing the PMO move from just tracking things to being a real strategic partner.
Yeah, a partner measured on delivering tangible business value, not just ticking boxes. And we established that solid foundation needed for success, the importance of negotiation and influence in that three-legged stool structure.
Wow.
The absolute need for clarity in the statement of work, the structured thinking behind the work breakdown structure, and embracing hybrid methods, using tools like AI and PPM for smarter, data-driven decisions.
And crucially, we wrapped up by showing the power of objective control using earned value management, turning that raw data into real insights with metrics like CPI and SPI, allowing for actual forecasting. It really drives home that project management is kind of the unseen scaffolding holding up our digital world.
It truly is. So maybe a final thought to leave you with, whether you're actively leading a team, studying for a certification, or just living your life online. Think about this. If every IT project suddenly failed tomorrow morning, what part of your connected world, your banking apps, your online learning platforms, the logistics getting your packages delivered, even the power grid controls what crashes first?
It really makes you appreciate the depth dependency we have on successful, disciplined project management. It's behind pretty much every app launch, every online order, every innovation we take for granted.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on the deep dive today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And remember to check the description for those extra resources, the case studies we mentioned.
Definitely with a look.
Until next time, keep exploring the world where ideas become projects and projects shape our future.